Good morning, everybody. I'm Nick Rishwain, and co-host, and co-founder of LegalTechLIVE here with...
Hey, my name is Ivan Raiklin. I am an angel investor, startup advisor, and also attorney that doesn't practice, but I do like to interview people with Nick. And thank you for coming along, Alma. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
No, we're happy to have you, and we've been doing a little research on Alma this morning and previously, and really excited to have her today. I'm going to give you a little input about Alma herself, and then we're going to ask her to give us some more feedback about herself and tell us about AllegoryLaw, which is an exciting tool that she has developed. She is the founder and CEO of AllegoryLaw. And this was really a telling statement that was written about you in Above the Law, which is a blog that I love reading. And this starts with Alma's legal entrepreneurship story, and it says, Alma is the type of prodigy who makes big law salivate. You graduated high school in 3 years, graduated college, Phi Beta Kappa, in another 3 years, and finished NYU Law by age 22. You proved yourself a rising star in Gibson Dunn's white-hot litigation group and had garnered a star litigator as sensei who was actively guiding you towards partnership. So I thought that was just what a great way. You must have been really honored to have that written about you in Above the Law, because that's a pretty great way to talk about your accomplishments. So can you...
And I echo what Nicole is saying here in the chat on the right. You are so impressive. Awesome.
Yes. I don't know if you know Nicole Abood. We have a couple of our good friends and former guests on this show. Nicole Abood is a star woman in tech and former lawyer, former practicing lawyer, and Jay Giuliano from Pat Deck LLC, also a former guest and actively practicing patent attorney. I myself never practiced. I am in my day job vice president of experts.com, and so I'm in legal tech, and this is sort of how how the show came to be. Tell us about you, Alma. This is just an awesome little bit about yourself. So please tell us how Allegory came to be, and what did that little paragraph leave out? Because I'm sure it's a lot.
Well, thank you for that very kind intro. I was a litigator at Gibson Dunn for many years, and unlike a lot of people who transitioned out of big law, I actually loved litigating. I loved my job, loved the people I worked with, but really was frustrated that the best tools that we had at our disposal were Excel and shared drives. And the fact that I had learned how to use Excel in high school actually put me ahead of the curve in legal tech from where I was sitting. And so I just started to have ideas about what my dream come true software would do, and started working with some engineers, and lo and behold, kind of progressed from there, and Allegory was built. So we now distribute Allegory to law firms, corporations, government agencies. We're about evenly split among law firm clients between big law and litigation boutiques. And I love getting it out there. I love seeing it help ease some headaches for lawyers who were sitting in the seat that I was sitting in.
That's fantastic. And I want to clarify here, maybe you can clarify for us a little bit more about Allegory. When I had first reached out to you, I had misread the AllegoryLaw profile, and I thought, oh, they must be doing law practice management software. But I have had to clarify, because there's a lot of people doing law practice management. You are doing litigation specific.
Yeah, so it's been a challenge to define what we do, because CaseMap is the closest thing on the market, but the analogy we use there is if CaseMap is a rotary phone, then Allegory is a smartphone. So same space, but totally different.
Nice.
But when I went out, thinking, oh, it's a case, I'll tell people it's a case management tool, but then you look online and what people think of as case management are really practice management tools.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely not overlapping with practice management at all. It really is designed to cover core litigation activities and connect all the pieces for the core litigation team.
So tell us like what pieces a little bit, give us a little bit, or our listeners a little bit more information. What core pieces does Allegory handle?
So if you think about litigation like an upside down T, there's litigation here all the way from when you start the investigation to when you have trial, or maybe even long after. There may be some compliance activities even after trial is settled. E-discovery would be the other line coming down. And so everybody's been so focused on the e-discovery industry and how you get down to what's relevant to a particular dispute. But what was missing, I thought, was a tool actually designed for litigation. And what about those documents is important? How are they being used throughout the case? So in Allegory, we connect all the pieces from your evidence to your transcripts, filings, correspondence, work product. So I can pull up a document at any time and see everywhere it's been used as an exhibit in the case. So if you think about a smartphone, you put a phone number in once, and it's available through 20 apps. But in litigation, we take one document and we put it in 20 different folders. So Allegory is like a smartphone where you put it in once, and now you pull it up and can see everywhere it's been used. You can also see particular pieces of key text. You can link just text from these materials to issues or facts or themes. You can spit out an order of proof based on those facts and themes, which will then have the supporting documents, key text, testimony from transcripts. So it's really connecting all those pieces that litigators are working with.
Oh, wow. Okay. This is, I got to say, Ivan, this is our first very narrow under the litigation, I think. The first guest who has narrowly, but seems like fully addressed the litigation. Does that sound right for you?
Right. I would use the terminology narrowly tailored.
Narrowly tailored. I like it.
Noises.
Yes. Yeah, that's fantastic. So
what is the genesis of the company? That would be my question for you, Alma.
Meaning?
So I guess like what really spurred your interest in actually creating this company and this product?
So it's funny because people ask about, what made you decide to be an entrepreneur and what made you decide to have a startup or build this company. It really came from the software. I mean, when I was working as a lawyer, especially in litigation, I didn't know what it took to build a company or what it took to build a software and get it out there into the world. I really thought I was going to build a dream come true software. It was only kind of later as we're developing the software that it's like, oh, well, wait a minute. Now we need to have titles and we need to set up payroll and we need to have sales and we need to do this and we need to do that. So building the company kind of came out of just launching in and designing what would be my dream come true software and working with engineers to build it.
Very cool. So was it the, we know that litigation, it can be very inefficient for a number of different reasons. Is that what was the driving force behind it for you? The Above the Law article talks about how you set up this Excel spreadsheet and it revolutionized the partner Oren Snyder's viewpoint of how you might be able to help them to coordinate everything in a litigation. Was the inefficiencies the driving force behind this for you, or was it something else?
It's a combination of inefficiency and ineffectiveness. So we put a lot of work into creating that spreadsheet that's described in the article. Making sure that if we were sitting in a deposition and a document came up that we weren't expecting them to use that witness, we could immediately look it up right there in person, see where it had been used before, what other witnesses had testified about it, so that we were on the ball. Most litigation teams weren't that organized up front. Most litigation teams aren't putting in the work up front to keep track of all of this because it is so time consuming. And sometimes the clients don't want to pay for it up front. But the consequence is that you become more effective if you have all the answers at your fingertips. And of course, much less effective if you're the one in a deposition scrambling to email your team and say, hey, can you let me know what this document is? Where has it been used? And they're going from scratch back through everything and they get back to you a couple hours later when it's too late. So absolutely, making things more efficient, freeing up lawyer time. And, lawyers are still going to work hard. Lawyers are still, I still would have been working at 4 a.m., but I would have been working lawyering. And that's what lawyers should be working on, not trying to find documents or put together binders. So, I think inefficiency and ineffectiveness are inextricably tied. And so those two things were very important to me to make things more efficient, but also, you know, make lawyers more effective, give them those answers at their fingertips the same way they could when a litigation involved 10 documents instead of 10,000.
Excellent. Excellent. We have, Ivan, did you have something, or we have a couple of questions from our guests? Can't hear you.
Let's go ahead and take some of the questions that we have in the chat. All
right. So first question came from Nicole Abood, who said, who has been open to using the software so far, or AllegoryLaw so far? Is it bigger firms, medium-sized, solos? Who have you been attacking as your as the market?
Well, the people who get most excited about Allegory are litigation teams who are at the top of their game. So it hasn't really made a difference for us whether it's a small firm or a big firm. We have a couple of firms that are in the vault top 10, you know, big law as well as other big law firms. We have firms that were among the 10 hot litigation boutiques named by the National Law Journal this year. Our smallest firm is 2 people out in Seattle, and they love it as well. So, you know, obviously different teams and different firms may appreciate different benefits. But really the distinguishing factor and what we look for when we're going out trying to find clients is litigation teams that really appreciate the ability to be more efficient and more effective.
Excellent.
So Jay Giuliano has a question. He's from PadTech LLC, and he's asking, what's the killer feature that a majority of your customers said after buying? That's exactly what we needed.
Well, there are a few of them, but I'd say the big one is the ability to create binders. So if you think about going all the way from a deposition prep outline that is going to have various document references, you know, it may have a Bates number. That Bates number is probably just whatever page the attorney was looking at. They probably didn't go back and find the Bates begin, which is what a lot of tools require you to use to find a document. It may be just a description of the document. And then taking that to find all those documents, which are often hundreds of documents, create a binder of them. And then if this is an exhibit set, you have to insert exhibit slip sheets and do other things to get it ready to file with court. So in Allegory, you can go from just a list of Bates numbers or document numbers. So they can be the Allegory document numbers or Bates numbers, and the Bates numbers can be any page within the range. You upload that list, and Allegory will automatically create your binder with all of those documents in that order. It'll let you know if any were missing. So if the attorney miswrote a number, you'll be alerted. And then you can automatically export out those documents into a binder format. You can reorder them in the tool if you need to do some last minute reordering as well. And they all get exported out. And if you want them to be exhibit versions, they'll automatically get exported out with your exhibit slip sheets, however you want them. So obviously with hundreds of documents, it takes a couple of minutes to queue up, but I can go from a list of Bates numbers to an exhibit set with exhibit cover sheets ready to file in under a minute in Allegory.
Wow. That's fantastic. And then can they, how does it integrate with other, say, during the trial, can they put it up through PowerPoint? Does it integrate with any of those to show the exhibits during an actual trial?
So everything gets when you create these binders, everything gets exported out in the original format. So if things came in as video or pictures into Allegory, there'll be video or pictures in those exported out zip binders. Okay. So those can be easily transferred to any trial presentation tool, or dropped into PowerPoint, whatever it is. On the other end, we do have a plugin. Concilio offers a plugin between Relativity and Allegory, where you can simply send documents from Relativity into Allegory.
Okay, so something like Trial Director, you can export it and pretty much get it up on Trial Director pretty easily.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Okay. It is, and our friends who are here, who are in the legal profession, are saying these are great ideas. It reflects kind of funny being binders. Jay says the reference to the paper world. That's just exactly the way lawyers think. So he's, we're paperless here at my office, and I think we're headed towards that. So this is just a really, really great example of what
after
you guys
decades
do.
of everybody saying we're moving to a paperless world.
Right.
Maybe we're actually there with
Maybe
Alma being the catalyst behind it.
Well, I don't know. One of the things that I always tell, particularly older partners, is a distinguishing feature of our program is, whereas everyone else is saying you're going to have to do everything on iPads from here on out, we actually made everything so easily exportable back to hard copy that that's kind of their comfort zone, that, okay, all this work is done, but then I can use it, my team can give it to me in hard copy and I still get the benefit of it.
So they're not afraid that it's just in the cloud and they can't ever feel that paper again.
Yeah.
So it's like a safety feature for the older partners.
I mean, the truth is I like hard copy. I know a lot of lawyers who still love their hard copy. And so, in building Allegory, we've really tried to pick our battles in terms of, with lawyers, I think to get them to adopt new technology, you really want to take baby steps and not, take them so far that they're just like, all right, I'm just going to keep doing it the way I'm doing it.
Yeah. And that leads me to a question, and I'm sure will lead Ivan, since he's got more of the startup experience than I do. But what has been just more of the business of being now in legal tech? What have been some of the biggest roadblocks for you to grow your business?
I think it's just scaling. It's hard to raise money in legal tech, and there are a lot of reasons for that. So we raised just under $1 million and otherwise have done everything on revenue. So when you don't have a big investment to go out and spend hiring lots of people to go out and sell, you end up doing it a lot of it yourself. Obviously, we've partnered with legal services companies to try to spread the word more, but really we have this amazing product, and the biggest challenge is just getting the word out fast enough.
Yeah.
All right, that leads me to a few questions. Thanks, Nick, for teeing that up for me.
You're welcome.
So basically, so can you talk us through from when did the company start, and how did you essentially scale to where you're at right now for revenue, and then moving forward, I guess, when did you raise that capital and on what platform? Being an angel investor, obviously, I like to hear just to see what the process was with every different founder that I speak with. So if you could talk about that, Alma, I would definitely, that'd be a interesting topic that I'd like to continue that conversation on.
Sure. So I left Gibson Dunn in February of 2012, so a little over 4 years ago. Obviously, in the beginning, there was some, starts and stops and trying to figure out how you make all this work. And then in early 2013, we raised money for the first time and raised $500,000. And that was all people we knew, people who knew us and believed in us. I think sometimes something that people forget in legal tech is that although there aren't a lot of, it's not like the Silicon Valley mentality of investing. We're surrounded by people with money.
Right.
So, these were, a couple partners from Gibson Dunn, a couple other people, and they knew me, invested, and then took it from there, then did a convertible debt round later that year.
Okay.
Because at that point, we had the prototype ready and we were out there, but, we weren't sure yet how it was going to scale, and nobody wanted to set a valuation on it. So did that round. Right. And then in December of 2014, we closed a small round that converted the convertible debt and basically, cleaned up the cap table and got all that sorted, and brought in a little bit of extra cash for the company.
So it sounds like it was all basically internally funded with your close associates?
Yeah.
You didn't use any external platform or third party in order to put the word out for raising?
No, okay. I think I set up an AngelList profile at one point, but nothing came of that. I spent a lot of time in Silicon Valley trying to do the raise money thing, but I found that it just attracted my attention from actually building the company. And it's this tension. They're like, well, why don't you have more revenue? And I'm like, well, because I'm spending all my time trying to raise money and hire people. And so finally I realized that, our best shot was for me to just try to get more clients on board. And I got to say, it's more fulfilling to have clients pay you for the product than go beg people for money.
Yeah. So it's been basically bootstrapping is what you've been doing then for the last couple of years.
Yeah, bootstrapping, and then those angel investors, but they were all people other than one. They were people that I knew before I started the company, or or a couple of them I met after I started the company, but were friends or otherwise involved in the company. But there was just one that I would say was a professional investor before I met him.
So what would you say was the most difficult thing as far as raising the capital from your investors? You mentioned that in Silicon Valley, most people, I'm sorry. I guess when you're in Silicon Valley, no one was really palatable to the idea of launching a legal tech company. But back in New York, it was a little bit easier. Primarily, was it due to your network was a lot more robust or there versus in.
I know the people there, so it was, and those were also people who understood the industry. I mean, I think one of the challenges I faced in trying to raise money in Silicon Valley is those investors don't understand the legal industry. So they would say, well, what are people using now? And I would say Excel and share drives. And they'd look at me and say, oh, you must just not know. And I'm sitting there like, I've practiced for years. I've spent the last few years going around talking to every lawyer I know. Like, yeah, I think I do know. And so it's just this, it's very frustrating even trying to educate them on the opportunity, much less get to conversations about, the investment options or any next steps.
Wow. Yeah. And that's one of those things that people don't understand how far behind the legal industry is in tech and how difficult it is for many of us in legal tech to really pull the lawyers into the adoption of this new stuff. So we had another question from Nicole. Did you have any hesitation making the switch from the actual practice of law to legal tech?
I think I just didn't know what I was getting myself into. I like I said, I had this really cool idea. I was in my 6th year and I was being put on partnership track and just started to think, if I dive into this, I know exactly what I'll be doing every day for the rest of my life. If I'm ever going to go try something else, I should try it now. And then if that doesn't work out, I can always come back into practicing law and just do those 2 years then and work toward partner at that point. And so it was timing. I just thought, let me go try something. And I'd had these ideas and a friend put me in touch with some developers and it just kind of rolled from there. I can't say that I ever sat down and thought about the full consequences of what I was diving into. So
it was, I like to call that ready, fire, aim. You sort of just fired without aiming at all, huh? And it sounds like there was some planning with the developers, but you really weren't sure where you were going.
Yeah, it's been a lot of trial and error. I mean, keep in mind, the legal tech sort of innovation startup community has really come about in the past few years. Like when I left to do this, there wasn't really much out there. There weren't resources or people to talk to. I think it's terrific now that there are people like you doing shows like this and that there's so many people interested in legal tech innovation and there are all these conferences, because I think that now lawyers who are interested in starting their own startup or building a product have a lot more access to people who have tried and done it and can offer advice to skip over some of those learn the hard way hurdles.
Cool. Yeah, very cool. Ivan, did you have something more? Because otherwise, I have more questions, but I don't want to.
I always have questions.
I don't want to hog the time.
What's the way forward for the next year for you? What are you thinking about working on?
So we're really amping up sales efforts. So to revisit what I said before, our biggest challenge right now is just getting the word out more. And so we've partnered with a company that's helping us with some outreach. Like I said, we have the legal services relationships. We also have someone who's working with us now on PR to get the word out more, so that we can really focus on having the best product we can have and bring in some other resources to help us with getting the word out and closing those sales.
Excellent.
I don't know. I have a few ideas. Well, Nick, you got a few ideas?
Not at the moment, but go for it. Share them.
Let's see here. I don't know if you've been on Nicola Booth's show yet on her podcast, Alma.
No.
Oh, she says it right here on the right in the notes. Well, might I suggest getting on podcasts and spreading the word? Just saying.
Nicole, are you shameless plugging on our show? If so,
no, I actually queued her up because
yeah,
I thought it would be a good idea for
Yeah, no, Nicole, I'd love to do that. Thank you.
She's Nicole's has the Gen Y Lawyer podcast, so it might be a great place for you to. She has been snagging all of our previous guests. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. I want to hear about Antarctica. I have to ask. I read somewhere that it's like one of your favorite places.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I love
You're just digitally stalking like crazy, aren't you?
I guess gotta be prepared for my guests. Well,
that's the point of putting articles out there for people to read, right?
Yeah.
So Gibson Dunn was terrific. They treated everyone like professionals. We didn't have hard vacation limits. So I the idea was you don't let your team down, you get your hours done. So I would work weekends, I would work holidays, but every year I would take a big trip and, I'd be available if people needed me. But the people I worked with were terrific about, travel is my passion and letting me go to crazy places. So Antarctica was definitely the craziest. I told Oren, look, I'll be able to, you can reach me by satellite phone. And he's like, Alma, just go. So I was on a boat for 2 weeks, no internet access or anything, and went down there, and it was amazing. I mean, it's just, you feel like you're on a different world. And it was about 40 people. We were on a boat and had a bar. So every morning we go out in Zodiacs, either in and amongst the icebergs or go hang out on islands with penguins, and then come back for a little while, then go out again in the afternoon, and then come back and all hang out in the bar and share pictures. And it was really a one-of-a-kind experience. And I felt very lucky to have a job that allowed me to have that experience at a young age, because I think for a lot of people, that's the kind of trip of a lifetime that they wait, their whole life to go on. And I felt very spoiled that I got to go on it when I did.
That's awesome. It sounded, now I can't recall where I read that about Antarctica, but it sounded like it's somewhere you'd like to go again. Was it?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it was that cool, huh?
Yeah.
All right. And was Antarctica before? Was that before you made the transition to Allegory?
Yeah. No, that was well before.
Yeah, Nicola's asking, so now as a startup CEO, do you have the time to go out on any of these sorts of trips?
No, I have not left the country in a year and a half, other than a business trip to Toronto. So, I try to work in the outdoors and adventures in other ways. When I moved out to Palo Alto, for a bit, I bought a car in New York and drove from New York to Palo Alto. And then when I decided to come back to New York, I drove across the country and fit in equally some meetings and some trips to national parks for hiking and whatnot. So I try to get my little adventures in here and there, but definitely no internet access travel right now.
And that's the thing with tech, isn't it? I mean, we're all doing this all the time. Or I've got my iMac here, and I've got two screens in front of me, so it's constant. So getting away and unplugging from time to time is a good idea.
So I looked at your photo collage, Alma, and this goes more on a personal question. So it seems that you have never been to the Middle East. Is that not the case?
That is correct. I've never been to the Middle East.
So I think you should splurge when you have a moment to come to the Middle East next time.
I really want spots. I've done a lot of solo traveling, so a lot of the trips were solo, and that's one place where I feel like I'd want to be there with a group.
Sounds like a good plan.
So it's definitely somewhere that I plan to go. Just have to find the right opportunity.
Excellent. What is your plan to now scale? Who are you attacking, I should say? I call it attacking for your sales, just to get back to business a little bit here. Who are you aiming at? Who is your PR person aiming at? Who are you guys doing email campaigns? How are you really trying to go after the potential clients or customers?
So we're primarily, going after big law. And like I said, I look for, a couple of our clients were just this list and are already clients, but I like to look at the list of like the hot mid-sized firms, the hot litigation boutiques, because again, it all comes back to the firms that are passionate about litigation, and that are passionate about litigation. So we scour those lists to find other, firms that I may never have heard of. Maybe they're in a market that I don't usually visit. But the usual suspects in big law as well. And we usually go after senior associates, senior paralegals, or junior partners, because those are really the people who are in the weeds and understand these issues and still have the ability to solve them. They have the ability to go to the partner in charge and say, here, we need this tool. Sometimes when you meet with senior partners, they say things like, well, if I want a binder, I get a binder. So I at least, if I get a meeting with a senior partner, I ask that there be someone more junior in the room that they trust. And, on the technology side, there's some amazing people in practice support and litigation support out there. And I think firms are doing a tremendous job of focusing on those areas. But to date, that's really been e-discovery focused. So sometimes when we show our tool to those people, they're thinking e-discovery and they're like, well, it doesn't do this and it doesn't do that. And I'm like, well, exactly. So we do really try to focus on lawyers and paralegals. They're the ones who end up using the tool, and they're our best market when we're out selling it.
Excellent. And we found in my day job that dealing with the younger or the 25 to 40 range has been an easier in getting them to adapt because they're more open to using the internet or using tech. And that is that, it sounds like that's what you're saying. Are you noticing the same thing? Okay.
There are definitely exceptions, but for the most part, people who are at least already comfortable with some kind of technology and doing stuff online are better audience. Yeah,
that's my. Jay has another question here. He says, looking back, and he is also a legal tech founder himself, working in patents. Looking back, were there any mistakes when starting out and building the platform that you would have done different now?
So a couple of years ago, even, I went to a presentation in San Francisco on the top 5 mistakes that startups make. And at the end, he asked if anybody had made those mistakes. And at the end, I raised my hand and said, I've made every single one of those. So if there's a mistake to be made in building a legal tech company, for the most part, I think we've made it. There are a couple of things that we knew from the get-go. Like, I'm not going to go out and sell a program that's not stable and not secure. And so there are a couple of things that I already knew as a lawyer coming into this that it would have to be, because if I'm the lawyer, I know what I expect. But pretty much everything else around it, figuring out how to build a company has been kind of, like I said, learning a lot of things the hard way. But I will say, I'm grateful for a lot of those experiences, because I think we made a far fewer mistakes later and sort of the past few years by having made so many mistakes early on and learning from them.
Excellent. And it sounds like everybody makes these mistakes, and it's the only way to learn. You have to make some of the mistakes.
It comes down to the less stuff that you do in life, the fewer mistakes you'll make.
That's right.
The more things that you're involved in, when you're very active, you're bound to make a mistake. So if you're making that many mistakes, then you're just crushing it. You're very active.
Ivan, you had did you ask about the ideal customer already? Did you want to ask? It sounded like
I was just trying to help you. Yeah, I was just trying to help you say customer because you were struggling there.
Oh, was I? Well, thank you for that. You should have spoken up so that I would have it on audio and video if I was struggling. What can we do? We normally ask, we usually go about 45 minutes here. What can we do to help? Other than we have you on, and then we tweet it out. We'll create the YouTube video and share that with you, and retweet it from time to time, repost it on Facebook. Anything that we can do to help bring more visibility to the company, anything.
I would say send your lawyer friends our way. Anyone in litigation, please send them our way. There's so many opportunities to get the word out, and yet lawyers so have their head in the computer that unless you kind of bang them over the head or catch them with a good email, I find it's very hard to get their attention. So the best way that we found to really get the word out is just people spreading the word.
Yep. Word of mouth. Word of mouth still the most powerful.
It really is.
So what's one or two law firms you would want to talk to that you haven't been able to reach out to yet?
Well, we've spoken to an associate at this firm, and she loved it, but she, like everyone else, is so crazed that we haven't been able to progress to next steps. But Sussman Godfrey, I think, is kind of the ideal. It's a bigger size firm that specializes in litigation, and everyone I know who's worked there in the past or works there now is so passionate about litigation. So that is definitely an ideal firm where we haven't had more than one conversation, but I would love to progress further.
I guess I have one question to everybody that's in here that might be able to help out, and that's what legal tech conferences or just legal conferences that are on the fringes of being in the legal tech space that folks have attended that would be beneficial maybe for Alma or any of us to attend to be able to spread our network to get the product out there more so than currently.
I can.
Maybe Nick, I think you have one coming up, right?
I'm coming. Yeah, I've got one coming up. Alma, are you in New York now? Or are you back in New York now? Or are you in Palo Alto?
Right now, I'm in West Virginia.
Oh, West Virginia. Okay, in what appears to be possibly a woodshed of sorts.
Cabin.
A cabin. Come on.
It's a cabin. Good.
It is Saturday, right?
It is. It is. We like to have a little bit of fun on this show. We like to have a little fun. We're going to Legal Tech. I'm going with the company to Legal Tech the Legal Tech Show West Coast. Will you be there?
Get back on track.
I actually won't be there. We haven't had a lot of success with leads out of Legal Tech, I think, because there's just so many people running around. So I usually try to show up anyway, but this year it happens to be on my birthday. So given the returns we've seen in the past, I decided to take a pass on this one.
All right, so we need to tweet out on your birthday this video and make sure that you're just slamming your Twitter feed.
That's right, Facebook and everywhere else. Yeah, well, that's a bummer. I'm looking forward to. And Nicole mentions, and I'm imagining that it would be a better lead for you, the ABA litigation section events, probably more appropriate for you than even the Legal Tech Show.
Yeah, so we did the ABA Tech Show in March, and that even was more effective than Legal Tech, just because there are a lot more lawyers there. Legal Tech tends to be a lot more people focused on the technology side.
Right.
Again, we're targeting lawyers, but she's absolutely right. That's what I told, the people who are helping us with the PR and marketing. I said, we need to get involved in the litigation sections of various bar associations because that's where we're going to find lawyers. Knock on wood.
And have you had any success in even local, not just state bar or ABA, but doing anything at local bar association events?
We haven't approached them to date. Again, I've been the one spearheading sales, and that's why we're starting to bring on these more people, and it's definitely part of their mandate to talk to those local bar associations. But yeah, most of my time has been spent just going directly to law firms to speak with lawyers and people there. Excellent.
Excellent. Yeah. Does anybody want to join and ask a question? Anybody want to come into the open seat and ask a question that hasn't been asked in the side? Please let us know or click call in. Jay says the INTA for trademark litigation and the AIPLA patent litigation are possibilities. Are those, Jay, conferences that maybe you can share a little bit more information? Jay does patent litigation out in DC. So
there's great opportunities.
Yeah. So maybe Jay has tweeted out, you probably, I don't know how active you are on Twitter, but he did share actually the Above the Law article before the show today. So he's a good guy to know, and he's been a big supporter of the show here and previous guests. So maybe you guys can also communicate, and he's given several former guests some good insight as to approaches. So, Ivan, anything else before we let Alma go back to enjoying her weekend and
enjoying the Saturday morning into the afternoon? Yes. So no, I actually really enjoy this show, Alma. You're definitely a go-getter. I mean, what, at 23, I think at this point, right? You're about 23 and you're doing all these things. Amazing.
Out a decade.
No, because the fast pace with which you completed your degrees, undergraduate, graduate. What did you complete your law degree in? What, 2.5 years, or did you go to the 3?
No, I did the full 3 years.
Okay.
So you did high school in 3, college in 3, law in 3. That's pretty impressive, nonetheless. Very impressive.
Triple threat.
Triple threat. Yes, Alma, you have been just a joy to have. Thank you very much for taking a little time out of your Saturday vacation and joining us today. When I get the YouTube video completed, I'll send that over to you, and you can reuse it however you wish. And we hope to have you back on in a year to tell us how you're knocking the litigation dead with the allegory law.
I so appreciate it. Thank you, Nick, and thank you, Ivan. I really appreciate your interest in all the legal tech and also other fun things like travel.
Yes, I love traveling. Thanks, Alma, and thanks everybody else. Nicole.
Thank you,
Pat,
guys.
Everybody else that jumped in.
Fist bump out, everybody. There you
go.
go.
Oh,
Boom.
She did it.
She did it. Thanks very much, Alma. You have a great weekend.
Bye.
Bye-bye.